All right, welcome everyone. We got a fascinating thing happened today, and I'm going to be joined by two lovely ladies. One of those is Hella Gilling. Hella, raise your hand.
Hey, everybody.
Hella is one of our EFT masters, recently certified, all of that. And her client, who's had a first-class experience, and that's Jan Smith. Jan, raise your hand if you would. Okay. Jan, I understand that you have now what you call new hips. Is that right?
That is correct. I'm very, very excited about it too.
Okay. Well, one of the things we really want to emphasize, we're going to talk about your new hips, the way they were before, and then you worked with Hella, and then the way they were after, where they are now. Okay. And they've been that way for how long?
At least 15 years, maybe a little more than 15 years.
No, I mean the new hips.
Oh, the new hips.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, when did we stop working, Hella? About
It's been about a month and a half.
Has it
Okay.
been that long? Ooh,
All right.
Okay, about a
Well,
month.
Yeah, my understanding is before we ever had this conversation was that you and Hella were working on some heavily charged emotional specific events, which we do with our advanced work with optimal EFT and so on. And you weren't aiming at physical things like your hips, or for that matter, you also had a pulse problem.
Yes.
Describe that. Your normal pulse used to be like low 60s, like most people, but yours went up to in the 80s, 90s, and 100. Am I right?
At the highest, it was around 100. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
It really concerned me. It wasn't coming back down.
And as a result of your work with Hella, not only did your hips, and we'll get to the details in a bit, not only did your hips get magically better, improved, all
Yes.
problems gone, but so does your blood pressure. And so did maybe an 80 or 90% improvement in some kind of dermatitis in your ears. Am I correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Mhm.
All right. All right. So we want to get into some details on that. So, because we have a listening audience who might want to know how that happened, because there was no medicine involved. I got that right?
Right.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. So if you would, Jan, talk about your hips. Let's just take your hips. Okay. And tell me the severity of those, how long you had the hip problem, this kind of thing. Can you give me a little background?
Yeah. They really, really were bothering me for over 15 years. And I was having a lot of trouble walking extensively. You know, it was always if people wanted to do something and it entailed a lot of walking, I wasn't able to do it. And it really bothered me. And I really thought I was going to end up in a wheelchair at some point because my hips were so bad. They used to wake me up at night. They would ache. And I'm just assuming it was arthritis or something, but it was really debilitating. And I used to say to my husband, well, my hips were humming last night. I didn't get much sleep. You know, I mean, literally, they woke me up.
For roughly 15 years.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. You and I didn't talk about this, but just let me ask you, did you consult physicians about this and they took x-rays or something like that?
Well, I'm going to be honest, physicians kind of want to write a prescription, and I was trying to do it in a more natural, treat it more naturalistically.
Okay.
And I did take some enzymes, which seemed to help it a lot, but it was still very hit or miss, you know?
Okay. So as far as the medical profession is concerned, you didn't go to doctors and
I didn't have x-rays, no.
Okay, sure. Okay, great. All right. So, but you just live with it, hoping you could take care of it somehow holistically.
Yes.
All right. But I gather from what you're saying that you were not having a high rate of success.
Correct.
All right.
It kind of made it tolerable for me, but it didn't resolve it the way it is now. I mean, I
Okay.
have new hips now. I mean, it's just amazing. I feel strong on my legs, my feet. I don't even think about my hips anymore. It's just like having new hips. It's wonderful.
Well, I'm speaking for some of our audience out there now who have either had a hip operation, they have a new hip, because they affected. I have a orthopedic surgeon friend who calls that operation a total hip. That's what they call it. He puts in a new hip. It's made out of titanium or something. But there are lots of people out there who have new hips, but they're not made out of bone and natural stuff and everything else. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, now let me turn to Hella for a second. Hella, you didn't even know, if I understand right, you didn't even know, as a therapist in this, you did not even know that the hip problem existed.
No, she came to me mainly for the heart rate issue. She was very concerned about the heart. So we focused on events that, were emotionally charged. And I had no idea there was a hip problem at all.
Yeah, it's what am I going to say? It's like almost common sense to think, well, okay, we have these emotional issues and we can see how that might raise somebody's heart rate. Okay, because I mean that even happens when we're angry about something. Now our heart rate goes up. Okay, so that was kind of an obvious thing. What is not obvious to most people is those emotional issues can also cause hip problems, diseases of every kind that we have. It's just people may know that intuitively, but it's not the kind of thing that's talked about as a front and center issue. With our course, it's a front and center issue. We take care of emotional issues, create personal peace, and then physical things happen. That's your experience, Hella?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I had nothing to do with it.
So you had one session with Jan for the heart rate.
We had, it took, after the first session, the heart rate improved, but then it came back. And so it was on and off. So for the first, it took 3 sessions before the heart rate stabilized, but the hips got better right away.
Okay. And in those, and you did, well, okay, in those 3 sessions, you were, give me an estimate. How many emotionally charged specific events did you aim at during those 3 sessions? Do you recall?
We probably worked on 4 or 5 total in those 3 sessions.
Oh, okay. And from a 0 to 10 basis, where did they go? Start with 8 or 9 or 10 down to?
They were all up there, yeah.
And they went down to 0, 1?
Yes,
2?
they did, and they were tested, and they went down to 0 and they stayed 0.
Okay, good. And then the 3rd session, she's telling you, voila, I'm not having any hip problems.
Yeah, she kept saying that. Like the first time she told me, I was like, oh, I didn't know you had hip problems. So the hip problem, she kept saying, well, no, it's still there, it's still there. And after the 3rd session, the heart rate settled in, and as far as I know, that's still good.
Yeah, she was telling me before we recorded that it's still down in the low 60s.
Awesome, amen.
Is that right, Jan?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So you did not even know, Hella, that she had a serious hip problem, 15 years and headed for a wheelchair or a walker or something like that. You did say that, didn't you, Jan?
I honestly thought I was aiming for a wheelchair, and I didn't want to end up in a wheelchair.
All right. So
that was not a concern, because she was so concerned about her heart. The day of the first session, she checked her heart rate in the morning and it was 88.
Mm.
And then the next morning after the first session, she was all excited because it dropped way down. It was down to 61 already. And then, it was a little up and down there for a couple of weeks, but then it was settled.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then, so when you say new hips, I presume, Jan, if your husband is willing, you could go out dancing tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can walk. In fact, I have done that. We went out to a festival in town here and I walked all day long. No problem.
Yeah. Okay. One more, let's finish up with one more thing, and that's the dermatitis in the ear. Somehow or other you had some kind of a version of eczema?
The doctor just said dermatitis and he wrote a prescription for cortisone cream, but I actually use an over-the-counter cream, which works. Mm-hmm.
Okay, but you
But
were
now I don't use it every day anymore. I mean, I only use it when I feel it getting a little itchy, which is not very often at all.
Well, do I remember that used to be like maybe once a day you'd put that on, and now
And
it's
sometimes twice a day. Mhm.
sometimes twice, and now it's like once a week?
Once a week.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's not done yet, but that's a fair improvement. Okay.
Yes, it's a wonderful improvement.
All right. Well, listen, this has been very useful, I hope, to our audience. You guys have anything else you'd want to add?
I just want to encourage people who are having health issues to give the unseen therapist a chance to solve those problems they're having, because I am a very satisfied client of Hella's, and she's going to be seeing me again. And I just hope people will give it a try.
Well, we have lots that are giving it a try, and this I hope is going to give them more motivation and fill in some blanks for them and so on. Hella, anything else?
Well, I just want to point out how you don't even need to know what's behind any one particular issues. Just work on the emotional pain, work on whatever issues there are, and then we see what clears up.
Yeah.
And it goes, I mean, it goes so fast because I did not try to figure out all what was going on with her hip or anything. I mean, unseen therapist took care of it without me doing much of anything other than digging a little bit to find the heartache.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. And to our audience, we'll see you next time.